welcome to our webinar, and we will wait a few minutes so everyone could enter to the Zoom room and join the session. And feel free to share the link to the webinar on your social media or with your network or friends so that they can also join. Even though they didn't manage to register, they still have a chance, and we will start just in a minute. So welcome.
Nana, you're muted.
Oh, yes, sorry. Welcome again, everyone. We will start in just a few minutes, and feel free to share the link to this webinar on your social media or with your network or your friends, so then they can also join, even though they didn't manage to register. And we will start just like in a minute to give a chance to everyone to join the Zoom room. Wow, we have people from different part of the world. Welcome. Welcome again. From Brazil, from UK, from Japan. Wow, late at night. From Sudan. Wow, welcome. Welcome again. All right. So, wow. Welcome, everyone. Once again, welcome to this webinar. Very wonderful. We're going to have a very powerful speakers today. I'm very excited. So before we start, I'm going to go through some house rules. So we would like you to know that this Zoom call is being recorded. So if you wish to watch or share the webinar recording, that would be very possible on KaiSet YouTube webinar channel. So please check it out after, and the link will be shared on the chat by Yasmin. And during the webinar, you are welcome to participate by writing your comments and questions in the chat. And please also raise all the questions for speakers in the Q&A box. You will find it in the bottom of your screen. And I will pick the questions after the presentations and then ask the speakers to answer the questions. And the presentation will be in English only. And it will be great if you could introduce yourself. I think some of you already do that. Introduce yourself in the chat. So let us know where you're coming from and what's your profession and why. What is your motivation to join us today? So welcome. So this year, the 66th session of the United Nations Commissions on the Status of Women, or CSW 66, the United Nations' largest annual gathering on gender equality and women's empowerment, are taking place from the 14th to the 25th of March this year, so last week and this week, under the theme Achieving Gender Equality and the Empowerment of All Women and Girls in the Context of Climate Change, Environmental and Disaster Risk Reduction, Policies and Programs. In line with this, our theme today will focus on commemorating efforts around the world in leading the charge on the climate change adaptation, mitigation, and respond to build more sustainable future for all. So before we begin, I will start by introducing my name and myself. I'm Nana Firman. I'm a senior ambassador at Greenfeet, which is a global interfaith network for environment and climate actions. I'm originally from Indonesia, and my faith tradition is Islam. But I've been living here in the United States for the last 10 years, to be exact, in Riverside, California, which is a Cahuilla tribe land. And I have the privilege to be your moderator for the session today. And I'm very pleased to be in a great company of our amazing speakers, all women speakers. Wonderful. So, for the beginning, I would like to invite our amazing teacher and mentor, Professor Mary Evelyn Tucker, who is joining us from the United States. And also, we have a list of wonderful women speakers. We are delighted to be joined by Elder Justina Nobia from Nigeria. We also have Tin Mama Tess to be short, who is joining from Sri Lanka. And we also have a great company of my wonderful friend Kiran Bali, who is joining from the UK, and also with Bani Dugal, who is joining from the US. Unfortunately, one of our speakers, Heidi Rautionma, or Heidi, who is supposed to be joining us from Finland, is unable to join us live today, but we will share her video message at the end of the session. So again, greetings and warm welcome to everyone. So let's begin. We are going to hear first from Professor Mary Evelyn Tucker, who will be sharing with us a few words marking this special day. So welcome, Mary Evelyn. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nana. I'd like to begin actually with a poem. And this is from a new book of poetry and prayers called Held. It's a rather beautiful book. And the poem I'm going to read is by Norma Dolaga, who is a deaconess of the United Methodist Church. She is a Filipina who's engaged in human rights, justice, peace, and women's empowerment work. The word Babaylan in her poem means women priest, leader, healer, and artist during the pre-colonial period in the Philippines. And the prayer is called Dance. We dance the dance of struggle and hope. We dance the rhythm, rhyme, ritual, and melody of poems, Babaylan, thinkers, and artists. We dance their protests and subversive prose. We dance the movement of indigenous peoples as they resist the destruction of Mother Earth, of sea, of sky, mountain, and forest, while plunderers accrue the immoral profit, trump their strides of gluttony and nature's robbery. The empire bows and sways to the gods of revenue and greed, exacted from farmers and the workers, and yet we join the rising battle of those downtrodden and undulate in the dance of release, redemption, and freedom. We dance the dangerous dance of struggle. We dance with whole body, spirit, and soul. We dance with the wind and the ashes, the reins of the old tyrant rule. We dance until oppression is no more. A powerful poem for our moments, isn't it? I take this beautiful poem in my hands and offer it for each of our speakers today, for their work that illustrates and illuminates for us the work they are doing. So inspiring. I offer it as well for all of you listening to their words of insight that we need in this time of such challenges. And I offer it in thanks for the women who have organized this webinar while welcoming refugees from the Ukraine. Oppression will perhaps never end, but we can aspire to its cessation. That is our daily task, despite all the sad, bad news that surrounds us now and into the future. And as this prayer poem reminds us, Indigenous women all over the world are leading movements of protest and protection without ceasing. The struggle for their land and sovereignty, the quest for their culture and rights has been ongoing for decades through settler colonialism, imperialism, and beyond into the present. My prayer today is that traditional environmental knowledge from all around our planet will be the seeds of new forms of sustainability. We have Western science and technology, economics and law, but each of these disciplines is now being transformed by the wisdom of Indigenous lifeways and the eco-spirituality from the world's religions and beyond to nature spirituality. We need a variety of eco-spiritualities along with engaged eco-justice to respond to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor, as the Pope's encyclical says so beautifully. And this is what we will hear from these dedicated women today. This linkage of eco-spirituality and eco-justice will bring us forward through this period of great transition toward a flourishing earth community. The new weaving that is already emerging in such books as Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Kimmerer is a linking of Western science and Indigenous knowledge, Western law and rights of nature, with a movement from Western neoliberal economics to ecological economics, from solely Western technologies to alternative technologies and Indigenous praxis, from Western industrial agriculture to sustainable agriculture, from simply Western forestry management practices to community forestry, agroforestry, and Indigenous forestry, and from Western education to holistic education for ecology, justice, and peace. And the good news is that this is happening in so many parts of the world, as you will hear today. If you want to pursue this further, I suggest you look into the 6 courses on religions and ecology, restoring the earth community, that we have launched on Coursera. The Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology has a robust website that supports these courses and lists statements and engaged projects of religious environmentalism in all the world's religions. That this is growing is a source of hope, and we are happy to add your projects and statements to the website. You can also sign up for a monthly newsletter to see what is blossoming forth in religion and ecology, books and articles, conferences and seminars, from eco-spiritual ideas to eco-justice action. Let me suggest what you will be hearing today, and it is recorded, as you know, are examples of some of the vibrant and dedicated work being done from every continent and against great odds, drawing on the rich resources of the world's religions. There are many struggles these women are facing on a day-to-day basis, and yet they have put forward their energy and time, their creativity and passion to make a difference in our world. Women are leaders in this effort, from young women like Greta Thunberg to elders like the Intercouncil of 13 Indigenous grandmothers, to those who have passed on, like Wangari Maathai, a Nobel Prize winner from Kenya, who founded the Green Belt movement, empowering women to plant trees. And on to Sister Megan Rice, a Holy Child nun, who, along with many in the Catholic worker movement founded by Dorothy Day, opposed wasteful military expenditures, destructive wars, and especially nuclear weapons. Let us honor our ancestors in these efforts, which we continue today, and they are inspired by spiritual visions and profound dedication. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Professor Mary Evelyn, for sharing such a wonderful poem and for your inspiring words and wisdoms, which really set the theme in place for today's discussion. And I encourage everyone here to join the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology. Indeed, we really hope that our efforts will transform into a flourishing world. And without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started. Our panelists will be sharing their thoughts and experience on 3 questions for today's discussion. The first questions we will be discussing today is, how has faith played a role in strengthening women's participation for a sustainable future? Before we hear from our speakers, we would like to ask you, our audience today, to share your thought on this question through our poll. So you'll see the poll. All right. So, and you'll see the question also in the chat. How has faith played a role in strengthening women's participation for a sustainable future? We'll give like a minute to see the poll. Wow. Motivation, inspiration, thoughtfulness, resilience, love, empowerment. All great words and powerful words. Let me see again. Caring, of course. Clarity, thoughtfulness, resilience, love again, empowerment. Wonderful. Empowerment, very important. Motivations, embodied creativity. Let me see on the bottom. Yeah, clarity, thoughtfulness. Yes. Wow. Great response. Wow, I'm very inspired just by the first poll. Thank you, everyone, for your contribution. It was great to see all the responses, and we will now move on to our speakers. Now we will hear first from Kiran Bali. Welcome, Kiran. The floor is yours on the first questions.
Thank you so much, Nana. It's wonderful to be here. I think first and foremost, our faith offers a real vision for women. It provides shape and fulfillment to all of our lives and thus has a very positive effect. In terms of religion, one of the most profound attributes of Hinduism, which is the religion that I practice, is the recognition and worship of God as feminine. And this continues to today. So I think all religious expressions, indigenous traditions do place women at the forefront. And I think from a faith perspective, women have these certain characteristics and powers. They carry these because they're female. And they are expected to bring all these gifts to everything they do in terms of the love, work, and how they lead. So it all looks good from a faith perspective, but now we come to how it's put out in practice. Despite, all of the Holy Scriptures talking about women and their leading role, I think many religious traditions still grapple with what it means for women to be really empowered. And it falls down to interpretation at this stage. So some interpretations attempt to restrict the rights of women in quite significant ways, and religion is sometimes seen as a barrier to gender parity. And we hear of things like gender-based violence in the name of religion. And the result of that is that religion and gender parity are sometimes quite complex. And I think we shy away from addressing those important issues. One of the key things that we overlook is religious freedom. And unless there's going to be religious freedom, groups, including women, will not be able to be at the table, and we won't be able to benefit from their vital, productive and creative voices. And I think this is where economies and companies really would miss out because they don't have the contribution of women. So just in summary, it's so clear that all of the faith traditions, expressions, indigenous traditions have much more to do to ensure that we bring out those teachings and put them into practice. Religious faith is sometimes seen as countercultural because it's not measuring the worth of a person in the same way as the world that we live in today. Today, we measure the worth like in worldly power, wealth, beauty. We see those as measures of success. And I think looking at this world through the lens of faith needs us to defend the cause of those who are weak and those who are struggling physically, socially, economically, and really work towards equality. So given the reality of women's experience, it is a moral necessity that for those who have a faith, we respond to this cause, we empower the women, and we practice as we preach. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kiran. That's very powerful. I really like the lens, from the lens of our faith, not only seeing as power, but as beauty. And sometimes we miss out on this. And all faith tradition and spiritualities teach us about beauty. And then we need to cultivate that in, making these changes, and then also involving women and empowering women in this process to the change. Thank you so much for your very powerful remarks on that. And our next speaker is Elder Justina. Could you please tell us, through your experience, how have faith-based initiatives proven the value of women's participation in a more sustainable future?
Thank you very
Elder
much.
Justina.
First of all, I want to appreciate KaiSeed, which is also a faith-based organization, always giving women the platform to actually participate and aid their voices. For the past 2 weeks, we've been engaging at different levels in this same topic on how we can amplify the voices of women across the globe. I want to say here today that faith communities all over the world is the most powerful agent for social transformation. And that is to say that they contain a lot of numbers. All over the world, we have over 6 billion faith believers of different denominations and religions. And this is quite a huge number. That is over 80% of the world population believes in one religion or the other. Which means if this kind of number is able to support everything that concerns women, it is really going to be of a great help for us. But unfortunately, just like the first speaker has actually rightly mentioned, how many of these faith groups have been able to push forward the agenda to ensure that women are fully participating. I want to give an example from where I'm coming from in Nigeria. I'm a Presbyterian member. Yes, I am very proud to be a Presbyterian member, because in Presbyterian Church of Nigeria, they allow women a lot of rights to participate. And that is why I am an ordained elder of the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria. We have also ordained ministers and pastors. But then you can see that the amount is very, very minute to compare with the men. For example, if we have 100 ordained people in the church, you find out that only 10 or 5 are women. That is the situation. So we are still lacking behind. We still have a lot of challenges when it comes to allowing women to participate, despite the fact that the faith communities have a lot of power to change their world. And this topic is very, very important, because if we will continue in this discourse, things will begin to change for our good. I want to say that there are so many things that is also happening in our world or in our society because of what faith leaders are doing. Not minding that they have not done much, there are things they are doing. They have played a lot of roles in advocacy roles, in advancing women's rights agenda on issues of harmful traditional practices like child marriage is an issue in Nigeria. We have female genital mutilation, which is also an issue in Nigeria. Education of the girl child, which is also a very critical issue in Nigeria. Wife inheritance, which is also an issue. And then women's right to own properties, women's right to have a say. Just like my sister also rightly said, religious freedom, do we have that in Nigeria? Is also an issue that we really need to look into if faith groups will have to do something. They have also started, ensuring that women are ordained, just like I've said, as pastors, elders, and also occupy some strategic positions. But what we are saying is that the challenges, the gaps are still more. It's just few women who have actually proven themselves to be very strong that has been given such opportunities. So faith-based organizations like KAISEED have also brought a lot of women. Like in their programs, most of the programs they are doing, they make sure that it is almost 50% men and 50% women. And some of the organizations where we work with in Nigeria are also following suit to make sure that in every gathering, at least we must have up to 20% or 30% of women. So these are evolving, it is really increasing, even though we have not gotten there, we are still working in progress to make sure that we get there. I want to end by saying that these women we are talking about represent half of the population of the entire globe. And how do we talk about a sustainable future without including this kind of people who make 50% of the world population? That is to say that if we really have to advance in everything we do, if we have to advance in gender issues, if we have to advance in development, we must have to make sure that this group of people that constitute half of the world population are included in every facet of development, climate issues, gender issues, everything put together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elder Justina. That's very powerful. I think we need to reflect that the number of faith populations, faith communities around the world is actually more than 80%. And half of the population are women. And that is a big number. And that's why it's very important to have women participation and also striving in this in order to work in different different issues such as development, climate change, environmental crisis, and so on and so forth. And I think that is a very very deep message for us to reflect. So our third panel, thank you again, Elder Justina, and I'm going to invite our third panelist, Bani Dugal. We are eager to hear you respond to our discussion question. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nana. And thank you also to KAISEED for bringing us together once again for an interesting discussion. In countless traditions, the vision of a harmonious future, a harmonious future is painted as one in which people prosper, nature flourishes, and peace reigns. However, given the warfare and the strife and the wealth inequalities, ecological disasters, and moral decay, which have come to define many aspects of modern life, to many people, this future seems out of reach. The Baha'i international community, however, believes that this future is not only possible, it is inevitable. Nevertheless, it will only come about when fundamental relationships among individuals, institutions, and other constituents that comprise humanity are transformed. While every dimension of human existence will understandably need to change to usher in this future, the nature of relationships between men and women deserves special attention. The Baha'i writings affirm that the world of humanity has two wings. One is women and the other men. Not until both wings are equally developed can the bird fly. Should one wing remain weak, flight is impossible. Until women are accorded true equality with men in every sphere, and until fundamental attitudes towards women are reshaped to reflect their inherent equality, humanity will remain mired in the struggles it currently faces. On the contrary, who can fully envision the great heights to which humankind will soar with two wings that are coordinated and strong? There is a twofold reality that presents itself in a world where the impending risks of climate change press daily. On the one hand, women are disproportionately affected by climate change. Women often have livelihoods dependent directly on stable and healthy ecosystems. With a changing climate, many are already losing access to land, shelter, as well as financial support and recourse. We are seeing vulnerabilities of women and girls deepen in societies that already fall short of realizing the full potential of women. On the other hand, women are not simply victims. We heard from the audience, they're powerful, they're resilient, they are caring. With encouragement by their communities and faith traditions, they are uniquely situated to lead efforts in response to a sustained relationship with the environment. The insights of women and girls from the range of human experience and form the range of human experience and enable the construction of a fuller picture of reality. Women are often connected to large networks and are an integral element of communal flourishing, community-based solutions, and community mobilization. We are seeing women worldwide making significant contributions related to climate action, natural resource management, food security, and modern and traditional scientific innovation towards sustainable solutions. The experiences and knowledge of women and girls offer profound insight into safeguarding humanity's home for the present generation and those still to come. Forward-looking faith traditions harness the potential of women on at least two fronts. By increasing women's presence in leadership roles and creating conditions for women to engage more meaningfully in community life.
Thank you so much, Bunny. That's very inspiring because women are not just the victims. Like when we're talking about climate change, women are not just the victims, but also have potentials and strengths to overcome the crisis. Like, thank you so much for that. I really like the balance between the two wings. Like otherwise, the bird cannot fly successfully. So thank you for that. And last but not the least, we will hear from Tess, who will tell us more about how your initiative have proven the strength of women in sustainability projects. Tess, the floor is yours.
Thanks, everyone. And I'm very honored to be with you all in this panel. First of all, I'd like to share my understanding about what the sustainable future is. For me, as a Buddhist, growing up in Myanmar, sustainable future is about inclusiveness and interdependence. I also love what Bunny shared about being harmonious existence as a way to sustainable future. So the world we live in can't be sustained if the interdependence is collapsed. When the people don't care about the nature, the balance is off. And that cause harm to ourselves because we are all connected. We are interconnected. We are all interdependent. So for creating a sustainable future, faith play a very important role, the same for women participation. But then sometimes faith sometimes is misused as a divider when people have misunderstanding or in having like incomplete picture about our own religion or others. So I also agree with what Kieran mentioned about how some cultural or religious interpretation can be barriers to women's participations in religion. In Myanmar, some people interpreted the culture and traditions as religion and limit the women's participation in the name of religion. For example, some holy areas can be entered by women because they are regarded they thought that women are second class, or this kind of limitation still exists in the past and also now. And faith for me is very powerful and sensitive, and it's because it's close to our heart. But then one of the things that I have experienced during my empowerment programs for the Buddhist nuns in Myanmar is that they're losing their own confidence in the work that they do. And the reason why is that they are not being recognized well or acknowledged by the public. So one of the nuns, Buddhist nun that I used to work with, said that she wanted to be a monk because she was working on the community projects, and then whenever it comes for the donations or recognition, it only goes to the monk, but not to the nuns or the women. So she wanted to be a monk. So because she thought that she really wanted to contribute more, she thought, okay, being a monk have a lot more authority, a lot more power to do the community work. And then she wanted to be a monk. But after going through a series of trainings with us, she started to have more confidence, and then started to learn that, oh, it's okay, it's okay for me to be a nun, to do more work. It's just that I need to build more competencies and be confident in my capacities. So what I really learned through our project is that we really need to empower women to know that they are capable, to raise their capacity, to build their capacity, and also to raise the awareness of the public, so that the women are more recognized for their works and contribution. So yeah, I've been working with the Buddhist nuns in Myanmar, and then working on the development of curriculum on the education for sustainability for younger children. And it's very interesting how people have less information or knowledge about the sustainability, or sometimes because of they are just so much focused on the daily livelihood, they just forget about these things around them. So it's very important for us to remind people that it's really important for them to think about the sustainability, to care about our interdependence, to care about our harmonious life with the nature, with ourselves, within our society as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tess, for that. I really really reflect on the inclusiveness and interdependent, and also that faith is very powerful and sensitive and close to our hearts, and sometimes it's being misused. So then we need to go back again and see this to have all participation, so then we're not harmful to the nature, and also topple the balance of nature. So thank you so much for all the speakers. So I'm going to change a little bit of our agenda today because Kieran has to leave very soon. So I'm going to give Kieran both of the questions of our second and third questions to our wonderful speakers, Kieran. So then she can answer both before she leaves. So Kieran, here's the question. How have faith-based initiatives proven that that hold on for a second. I'm trying to find it. Okay, so how have faith-based initiative proven the value of women's participation for a more sustainable future? And also another thing, if you can also share with us what challenges exist in implementing female-led sustainability projects, and then what can we learn from them? So if you can, share with us
Thank you.
your, like your remarks on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So with the first question, when women thrive, organizations thrive, the earth thrives. That's just so important. That's clear to everyone. And I think faith-based organizations such as KaiSeed, such as United Religions Initiative, are playing increasingly prominent roles in service delivery and bringing women forward, empowerment of women at the leadership level, and in URI, especially those women who work at the grassroots level. So there's lots of really good projects that are currently being undertaken where women leaders are working on the front lines to reverse climate change, for example, to protect communities, livelihoods, natural resources. And there's a lot of good investment in the training, funding, and the support of the women leaders. So these women leaders then spread their solutions to many others, not just within the project, but they really create a ripple effect that benefit the whole community, the whole region, the earth, and the future generations. And one more example is that education, it's something we take for granted in so many parts of the world. But in some regions, there are still a large number of women and girls who don't have an education and they're without of a skill or learning. And so they are unaware of their rights. And sometimes they have to work in houses, doing clothing, cleaning, washing dishes, and so on. And I think we have to understand the problems that they face due to the lack of education. And so there's some really good grassroots projects in URI where we actually see visible change by empowering these women, helping them develop new skills, giving them freedom of expression, and thinking about the economic obstacles that they face. And it is really about mobilizing and organizing women to use the resources and their talents to really bring visible and measurable change, not only in their own lives, but in society. And skills and learning is a really important part of that. So on to the next one, and I think this is the key one, because this is where we all really need to, introspect. I think there's so much greatness in having women in leadership positions, in faith-based organizations, in economic organizations, and so on. But I think we need to delve deeper into the premise that all these organizations promote gender equality, because just having women's participation isn't necessarily gender equality. And I think the critical dimension of women's agency and power is within their participation, but it is sometimes women in leadership. However, there are some quite strictly defined parameters, and there's sometimes minimal latitude for negotiating terms of the participation. Sometimes it's the poster girl, kind of thing. But yes, we are bringing women. And I think we really need to have an honest discussion about that. Billions of women, as has already been said, follow a world religion, a tradition and expression. Yet leadership is very elusive and rare by women. And I think by preventing half the population, which is the women, from preaching their beliefs, we're actually indirectly claiming that our male counterparts have a more direct pipeline to God than us. So I think there's something we really need to have a conversation about and see the kind of humorous side of that, but see the serious side of that as well. And I will just conclude by saying that we know that every religion preaches equality for women and men, and we do need that partnership to work well. But we must ensure that we work a lot harder to ensure gender equity in religious leadership and then interfaith leadership. We must empower women to decide what they will believe and what empowers them to challenge the practices within their own communities if they feel that they're being treated unfairly. And I think any restrictions on the right of women to challenge any practices are actually the violations of their religious freedom. So I think we need to move from religious women knocking at the doors, asking for equality, to us empowering them to open new doors. And we are all, leaders in our fields, KICGRI, all the panelists, all the people on this call. We listen a lot. We're doing some really good work, but I must emphasize what is most important is our actions. Actions speak louder than words. And I think our collective action will have a really powerful impact going forward. So I will end by saying, to make lasting change, the real need of the hour is women power. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. I really love that last words. That like we really need to lead the hour by the power, and of course, like Kiran hits a very very important things here about giving space for women to preach, because then we know it's going to have ripple effects to other women's also, and then we need to mobilize and organize and also like push this gender equity and gender balance within our faith tradition. And thank you so much, Kiran, and thank you for having you here with us, even though you have to leave very soon. Thank you so much. So now I'm going back to our polls. The second question that I already posted actually to Kiran is, how have faith-based initiatives proven the value of women participation for women participation for a more sustainable future? So if I can see the poll, so I would like to see the poll. Okay, let's see. All right, we are waiting for people to share what. So how can your faith? Yes, we are waiting for the polls. Again, yes, guidance, truth in a better future, clarity, trust. Yes, very important. Also, yes, how have faith-based initiative proven the value of women participation for a more sustainable future? Motivation, clarity, again, clarity, very important notions. Trust in better future, very important. That's about hope. One of the strength of faith and religions is to have hope on each of the individuals. Knowledge, strength, education. Kiran mentioned about education also. Hope, I just mentioned about hope. Trust, yes, very yes. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that women working together like that, like that proven that faith-based initiative can have women participation in a more sustainable future. So once again, we are eager to hear from our speakers today. First, I'm going to give the floor to Elder Justina. If you can share with us from your experience, how have faith encouraged women's participation for a more sustainable future? Elder
Thank
Justina.
you very much. Also sharing from my experience in Nigeria, we have done a lot because we believe that because of what society have done to women in our part of the world, women actually believe that they are second-class citizens. They are not able to really contribute meaningfully to the development of their world. We had such experiences, and we started engaging. We have a group of women who have decided to mentor other women. We mentor a lot of young girls to make sure that they are able to stand the test of time. Because that is a saying we say in Nigeria that when you build a woman, you are building the nation. And then when you empower one woman, you are empowering the entire society. And so what we have done is to create that awareness and make sure that every program that is there available will have a gender-sensitive lens. That is what faith communities is really driving at, and it's women that is leading and pushing forward this agenda. Because in our society, they believe that it is a man's society. And some of us who have been empowered are saying, no, it's not only a man's society. It's a society that belongs to both male and female. And because of that, they have equal right to participate. And we have created those structures, and we are constantly creating awareness. We work with the media to make sure that the media is able to amplify the voices of women. Another challenge we have also noticed in Nigeria is the fact that the media does not portray women as being capable to participate. So now we have been able to work with the media to ensure that the media speaks for the women. And they have invited a lot of women to come to the media to be able to express themselves. And another thing that we are also doing is to make sure that all sorts of violence against women and girls are at a minimum rate, because I just don't want to say that we have stopped it, because it is still happening. But we are trying our best to reduce it so that women can be allowed spaces to participate. Another thing we do now, politics is at the corner. Nigeria, by next year, Nigeria will be having their general elections. And since last year, we have been trying to see how we can empower more women to come out, because except we start sitting on the table, we are not going to be allowed any space, especially in our own part of the world. So they are beginning, the men, because of this gender-sensitive programming, they are able to realize that women can actually add a lot of values to the table. And because of that, things are really happening in our society today, because they are able to include women in every process of decision making. I want to end again by saying that the woman creates our world. She is in touch with nature at all times. She nurtures the nature and cares for everything that creation has created. That is the woman. She is a caregiver, and she is everything that the world needed. She therefore needs just a space to build her world and contribute meaningfully to the development of a sustainable future.
Thank you, Elder Justina. That's I highlight that about empowerment, that mentoring women to women. That's very empowering, and create awareness and also care with each other and support with each other, and also like, but men realizing that when women are participating, actually they have added values a lot to the society. That's very powerful. Thank you so much. So I would like to hear from Bunny now, like what like, you know, what is from your experience.
Thank you, Nana, and thank you, Justina, for your comments. The Worldwide Baha'i Community, together with other collaborators, has been learning about the application of spiritual principles to the life of the community in breaking down prejudicial barriers to women's participation, particularly in cultures where women are traditionally excluded from participation in the development of their communities, most notably in any kind of decision-making or leadership roles. In the Baha'i community, they work shoulder to shoulder with their male comrades to bring about change. In most communities, women are participating in, facilitating, and coordinating educational programs and social action endeavors in their neighborhoods and in villages at the same rate as men. And in some, they even outpace them. With respect to the experience of the Baha'i community itself, there are some distinct areas that I would like to describe. Central to the Baha'i community's understanding of the process of social betterment is the generation application, and diffusion of knowledge. Both Kiran as well as Justina had talked about this important thing about education and knowledge. Over the past decades, the Baha'i community has established a decentralized, worldwide process of spiritual and moral education in tens of thousands of localities that is open to all, regardless of religion or faith or any background. Structured in 3 stages, it meets the developmental needs of differing ages. The system tends to the moral education of children, facilitates the spiritual and intellectual empowerment of young adolescents, and allows increasing numbers of youth and adults to explore the application of spiritual teachings to daily life and to the challenges facing society. This educational process seeks to raise capacity within a population to take charge of its own spiritual, social, and intellectual development. Working in the neighborhood or village setting, its participants strive to create an environment conducive to the empowerment of individuals who will come to see themselves as active agents of their own learning and protagonists of a constant effort to apply knowledge to affect individual and collective transformation. So it is not my role to empower them or somebody else's role to empower them. This empowerment comes from within. Those involved gradually build capacity to engage in purposeful discussion with people they come into contact with in daily life. Neighbors, parents from their children's schools, shopkeepers, students, others, about the spiritual and material conditions of their communities. Crucially, service is the organizing principle of this process. The desired outcome is not for participants to simply learn things, but rather to build their capacity and increase their desire to be of tangible service to others. Examples demonstrate that these mature expressions of community life and institutional arrangements have enabled women to lead as effective protagonists in the face of local hardships and global disasters. It is precisely in times of turbulence where profound opportunities exist to redefine collective values and the assumptions that underlie them. The challenges posed by climate change serve as catalysts to embrace new approaches to inclusive forms of governance, as well as just patterns of community life capable of unlocking the whole range of human experience. Baha'is do not assess the success of their development efforts merely on the basis of material prosperity. A community is considered to be advancing when the relationships of its members are increasingly characterized by higher expressions of unity, trust, and friendship, and when its material needs are gradually being met. In this sense, a place that is materially affluent but spiritually morose is no more developed than a place where social ties are strong but basic material comforts are missing. In this sense, good citizenship is achieved both by contributing to the material well-being of one's community as well as the moral character. Such citizenship becomes a goal and increasingly a component of communities that are thriving. Women understand this well, as for centuries they have made do without the resources often utilized by men. They have learned to work through cooperation and mutual support. I can share just a few short examples. In Timor-Leste, there were local efforts to weave a unified pattern of community life. This happened 6 months prior to a devastating cyclone. It clearly contributed to the community's resilience. Resilience was one of the words that the audience had talked about. This collaborative mode helped to develop the skills and the networks needed to form relief structures capable of distributing food and other essentials. Without any expectation for payment, this community supported more than 7,000 people across 13 villages and neighborhoods with essential supplies when access to external assistance had been cut off. Similarly, another example in Cambodia, youth that were engaging in community empowerment programs collectively started a local tree planting project. It started off very simple, but over time, it ended up protecting a section of their roads from soil erosion with the onset of severe floods a year later. So these are just two out of many examples. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing those two examples. That is very powerful, and I like to highlight that about like during the crisis, actually we kind of tend to change, like because we need to have resilience, and also like it's been proven that having inclusiveness and also not always necessary that the material things that like really matters, but also like but the most important thing is our relationship to each other's, our social fabrics. So thank you so much again, Bunny, for sharing that. And I'm going to ask Tess, like, what is your experience?
Well, it's very valuable to listen all your great sharings and thoughts about these things. I think today I would like to share about 4 initiatives that that maybe our audiences can learn. I know that around the world, different religious groups have women-led organizations or women-led initiatives. But yeah, I hope you will. I would like to share 4 initiatives that I find really fascinating. So, in Myanmar is predominantly a Buddhist country, and Buddhist women religious leaders, the nuns, take charge in educating younger generations. So we have nunnery schools. So there are 2 types of nunnery school. One is particularly teaching the spiritual literature, the Buddhist literature, and there are the other type where they mix between the secular education as well. So non-teachers bring in the children from underprivileged communities to educate and even feed it and to the children in their schools. And then like they also have lessons on secular education, like languages, mathematics, science, etc., in addition to the religious text, so that the children are well informed about the world they live in and contribute to the society as better people. So I also believe in the ripple effect that one of our panelists has shared, that women can really create the ripple effect when we really help them, support them. So educating the women and you're really educating the community. So that's the first thing. The second thing is creating a space for women where they can share their challenges and happiness. Sometimes they will find it very difficult to deal with things in their life, but when there is a safe space, a circle where they can just open their heart and share their challenges or to feel listened, is really a great opportunity for them to be recognized. A network of like-minded women to support, mentor, and listen to one another is really, really effective. It's very similar to what Justina shared about mentoring, right? So we facilitate women mentoring to one another through safe space, so that they can also create even more safe spaces in their community or in their family. So the third one is creating resources for women where they can utilize in their own communities. Of course, resources, maybe teaching materials or reading materials or whatsoever, that should be relevant to their communities and their needs. But sometimes because the women, they may have limited knowledge or resources, they can't do much, but with extra support from the organizations or other people, then they can go further and even faster. And the last thing is raising public awareness on the role of women religious leaders or women's role through mainstream or social media. But you know, in the 21st century, a lot more people enjoy using social media than using a mainstream media, especially the younger generations. So for me, this is from my own experience. I do blogging on Facebook. So through my own blog, we promote the women's religious leaders. We do panel discussions. We write about them. We share about how the women religious leaders feel in the public, and also how we should be supporting. So after we do all these kind of awareness raising, we receive a lot more positive feedback from the public as well. So we should be thinking of raising awareness from the public, not only the mainstream, but also the social medias as well. So yeah, these are 4 things that I find really fascinating and really helpful through my experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tess, for sharing those 4 points of the from your experience, and I think this is very beneficial for all of us here. So I'm going to move on to our next questions, our last question, our third questions, which aims to reflect on the challenges that women have faced in implementing a sustainability project, and what are the learnings that we have from our experience. So I would like to pose this question to our audience. What challenges exist in implementing female-led sustainability projects? And then what can we learn from them? So you see the question in the polling. So we would like to see what are the response from our audience. Patriarchy, men, yes, the patriarchy system, stereotypes, very true. Lack of financial support, yes, some of our speakers already mentioned about support, funding, again, like financial support. Patriarchy is the biggest one, I think, from a lot of the response from our audience. All right, do we see like more? So with that, I would like to let's see if I have like yes, funding. And all right, so with that, I would like to invite our speakers to respond to this. Elder Justina, what, like, through your own initiative, how do you believe that faith-based like, you know, like this like female led initiatives, you know, like challenges, and then how do we overcome that?
Thank you very much. There is a saying in my culture also that it takes a woman to work 7 times harder to be able to lead in any organization. You have to work 7 times harder than men. And this is because of what some of the audience have said in the chat. The acclaimed notion that we live in a patriarchal society, which has actually brought women, it has set us backwards. So this is the major challenge that we are really having. I'm a Christian, and as a Christian, the Lord Jesus Christ taught us of how to really welcome everybody, every humanity. But then the men who are Christians are not agreeing with that fact that men and women are supposed to share equal values, equal life. They are supposed to enjoy life together. Everything is supposed to. In fact, the woman in Nigeria, the ordinary woman, is supposed to be seen and not heard. That is a very serious challenge that we have in our society. So this patriarchal nature of our society has brought a lot of cultural impediments. It has brought a lot of religious impediments, economic impediments. In fact, politically, they don't believe that women are able. Some of them have a lot of stereotypes of naming women as weaker vessels, people who are not really very intelligent to be able to meet up with the standard of the society. That is a very serious challenge. And one of the things we have done also in our organization and in the movement of women, of which I am leading, is to make sure that we actually remove this from the psyche of women, because this is a mental slavery which the men in our society have put in our mental processes to believe that we are not capable to do anything. And that is not true. So that is a challenge. Another challenge that we have also discovered in our work that women have to really go through to be able to meet up with the standard is this challenge of balancing office life with also family life. Of course, you know the role of a woman who is a caregiver, who is this a role of a mother. She has to take care of the children, she has to take care of the family, she has to also extend it to the extended members of the family. And balancing it sometimes is also a challenge for her. And one of the things we also do in our training is to make sure that they are, their capacities are built on how they are able to harness all these functions and still be able to function properly, both at their homes and in the office spaces. So these are all the challenges. But in all the challenges mentioned above, research have also shown that women-led organizations are better when it comes to leadership. They also bring a lot of good financial results. That is what they do. So that is why we believe in that word that says that when we empower the woman, we empower every society, because an empowered woman brings about an empowered, sustainable future. So the lessons we have learned from this is that we are always saying it, that women themselves should try themselves to make sure that they are able to build up themselves up to the extent that they are able to participate. They have to create space for themselves. They have to make sure that they join the conversation on a daily basis. We need to also sue for more friendly policies. There are so many organizations that will not want to give finances to women-led organizations to really participate or go ahead with their projects. But there is this sue that we are suing, that all these organizations should consider women-led initiatives, because by the time you grant women such space, that will increase their leadership position in the community and society. So in faith communities and in political landscape, women need a lot of space, because it is only when we are allowed to sit at that table that we will be able to make meaningful contributions in all spheres of life. So it is a time for us to continue to push. We have to push. We have to push until we get there. I was very happy today because in one of our reports, we had that Mozambique has become the third African country to achieve gender parity. It was a very, very glaring news for me, because we have been always talking about Rwanda, who has actually gotten there for some time now, Guinea-Bissau being the second, and today there is a news that we have powerful women now as ministers in the government of Mozambique. And I really want to say that I hope that Nigeria, any moment from now, we get there, because women are actually working assiduously to be able to achieve this. So women must recognize the role faith organizations, faith communities, and men are also playing. We have a lot of male champions in our society who we from time to time call to appreciate them. We give them what we call awards to encourage them, so that we have more he for she men who want to really support the agenda of gender equality and gender parity nations. We need to work with them. We need to also work with young people. We need to disabuse their minds that it is not like that. Women also have something to bring in the table. We need to educate the girl child. We need to constantly train ourselves as women so that we'll be able to meet up with the demand of the society. We also need to learn to really give ourselves a treat. Don't just work and work and work. Try to give yourself a good treat. Regret in yourself and make sure you feel good about yourself as a woman. And we need to also sue for equal work and equal opportunities for men and women. More women faith leaders are needed in our world today, so that we'll be able to add more voices to what's going on. We should remember that we form half of the world's population, and nobody can intimidate us because we have a say in these processes. So women should sit at decision-making tables with men. It is not all about bringing women's structures differently. It is about sitting in these high ranking tables while men are sitting. We also need to sit there, not creating a different structure for women. This is a women-led organization. This is women wing of maybe Christian Council of Nigeria. No, a woman can also be the president of Christian Council of Nigeria, for example, not only in the women's wing side. It's very, very important. So to have a sustainable future, there should be feminist climate justice. It should be in practice. It's not only about having it as an agenda. We should practice it in our communities and countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's very powerful, Elder Justina. Like, we need to practice, not just, having as an agenda, and also to lift up our women's mental block that, and then make space that we need to be part of this, contribute to the society. And that's very powerful. I really enjoy your sharing also with us. And Bunny, I wanted to hear from you also, what is your experience?
Thank you, Nana. Women face prejudice on a daily basis at local, national, and international levels. And I think the audience already recognized patriarchy as an issue. And these patriarchal structures naturally work against their progress. For there to be any lasting transformation, the entire society's dedication to gender equality and a commitment to building public life shaped by sustainable environmental practices will need to take root. Ensuring that the potential of women is fully harnessed will require action on at least two fronts: increasing women's presence in leadership roles, including in Nigeria, as Elder Justine said, and creating conditions for women to engage more meaningfully in community life. After everything we've gone through these past 2 years and amidst mounting climate and security risks, it's becoming clearer how much humanity benefits when women's leadership is embraced and promoted at every level of society, whether in the family, the community, local government, in corporations, or the nation. Qualities of leadership typically associated with the feminine, such as inclination towards collaboration and inclusion, and a disposition toward care and selflessness, are desperately needed. Most donor-funded projects tend to prioritize quick fixes and short-term gains. However, when women are consulted, they would ask for the prioritization of longer-term interests and the well-being of future generations, and to explore the human impact of policies more broadly as necessary tools in formulating environmentally conscious programs and strategies for building more resilient communities. By increasing women's participation in leadership roles, these forward-looking ideas will inform the culture of leadership and characterize practical strategies. This requires creating conditions for women to engage more meaningfully in community life. At the global level, we need international policies that are guided by principles of justice, equity, and dignity to set the stage for a culture of equality, and the creation of global institutions which are tasked with systematizing insights gained through local experience. And for the advancement of gender equality to proceed in all contexts, from the local to the national and the international. And I want to point out one other point that Elder Justine had made is the role of the media and how important that is. And I fully agree with that, because the media has to learn to give credit to women's initiative, to the contributions they are making, and not also be entrenched in that patriarchal model. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bunny, for that. That is so true. That women leadership like have a different style, and also like when they're in a leadership position, they engage in every level of society. And again, as Elder Justina mentioned, and you mentioned also, Bunny, about the role of media, I actually criticize the media on this because they don't really highlights women's effort on the ground on this, like really making a lot of like good progress. So perhaps like Tess can also share your experience on this issue.
Thank you, Nana. So there are two challenges that I wanted to highlight. The first one is like that when it comes to women-led sustainability projects, one of the most challenging factor is sustainability itself. So Bunny also mentioned, usually projects are really short-term focused and not really long-term. So whenever we are, as for me, I'm currently leading an organization, so it's a headache for me. So like we really want to go for long-term, but then the funding is only for short-term projects, and it's really, really difficult. Myself, while babysitting and managing the organization, like my head is like, how can I really continue the project so that I can create continuous impact in the community? So I know what you mean. So that's one thing. And then the other one is this repeated discrimination or stereotypes becoming a norm in the society. So as in our organization, as well as what we are doing, we are advocating the people to change the mindset. When it comes to mindset, it's also very difficult because like I said, the repetitive discriminations and all these stereotypes are part of us. And it's very difficult to break this bias or stereotype in very short time, right? So like after generation, it seems so normal for women to be in supporting roles. So sometimes it's uncomfortable for women ourselves, also for the men to be in the leadership role or taking lead in different kinds of projects. So where we grew up, usually mothers spend most of their time cooking and doing all the house chores and teaching the girls to learn to be good at managing house chores. But we really didn't learn to be leading the organization or whatsoever, because we always believe that this leadership role is for the man, the head of the house chore, household. So we get so used to it, and then when it comes to organization or even at work, we are always in the second row. Sometimes not because people discriminate, it's just that we just feel it's only the right thing to do. So we really need to break that bias. So from these two experiences, what we can learn is to really support both women and men's initiative, regardless of gender, and need to raise awareness of the people and even like to both gender as well. And also to be aware of their own actions and to change it slowly, not as soon as, but mostly we need to support women so that they are more confident in their own capacity and learn to contribute even more effectively. But we need to note that it's not always comfortable or smooth to break the bias and stereotype that we have in our society. We also need to know that it takes time to change, but we need to be persistent. We need to be resilient to create an equal and sustainable society. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for all this sharing and experience. Very important about sustainability itself. I like that you pointed that mostly like donors give short-term project funding, which is like women, as Bunny also mentioned, that women prioritize long-term and future for future generations. So it's like a shifting of this perspective also, like needs to be it's part of the challenge, and we need to work on that and also educate the donors that like we need to see long terms, not just short terms. So we've already heard so much from our speakers. Now I'm going to get the questions from our audience here for our speakers. And thank you so much, first of all, to all the speakers. Very, very important points that you mentioned. So the question is, which aspect of environmental and climate change do you see the most urgent need for women's involvement? So I give the floor to whoever wants. Maybe two of our speakers can answer that.
Yeah, for
Yes.
me,
Oh, yes. Elder, and then like Bunny, I will like next.
yeah,
Okay,
for me,
Elder
for
Justina.
me, yeah, for me in Nigeria, women, most of them are involved in agricultural um, farms. They are farmers. They are always in the farm, and the soil, the water, all those resources are very, very scarce now. And a lot of our communities are having a lot of conflicts because of waste for all those resources, the land and the water. And we have a lot of farmer-herder conflicts in all those communities. A lot of women have been displaced because of that. And all these things we have discovered as a result of climate action. And so if there is anything we can do, we have tried our best, even in our project, to make sure that in some of these communities we provide water. Like my sister mentioned, what we also do in our communities is also the fact that we know that these women, because of their poor status, they don't have actually the adequate capital to go into gas or some of these things that they can use to cook apart from the firewood. And so we have what we call the caretakers of the earth. And what we do is we encourage them that anytime they cut a tree, they just have to replace it by planting another tree. And it has become a culture in some of those communities where we work to make sure that they actually plant other trees in order to make sure that we don't really get into a situation where the climate conditions will be worse. So the issue of land, the quest for land, the quest for water, which is causing a lot of violent conflict and displacing a lot of women and children, is really critical in our own communities. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Yes, go ahead, Bunny.
I'd just like to add that, the one important area that women can bring to the community in terms of climate change and sustainability is education. Women are the first educators of the family. They're also very good networkers and working within the community. And I think if we really want to have a sustainable world and one where climate change is being addressed effectively, we are going to have to change our lifestyles. Whether we live in a village or you live in a big city, we have got to, every individual has to take the responsibility. Of course, governments have to have the policies, but women can actually begin to emulate some of the changes and be the example in their families, in their communities of what needs to change. And we need to, shorten our footprint and not be consuming as much and to be living a sustainable lifestyle. So whether it's a land issue or agriculture issue in one place, or it's, burning of fossil fuels in another place, it's about education and a change in our mindset.
Yes, thank you so much for that answer, Elder Justina and Bunny. Very important education, and also how women also involved in like in most of world's agriculture production. That's very true. So then we need women to be also like very involved in this issue. So we are coming towards the end, but before that, I would like to ask our speakers to share your social media accounts in the chat, so then our audience can continue to follow your amazing words. And now I'd like to share the video message from one of our speakers, Heidi, who is joining from Finland.
Best greetings. I belong to a Christianity that is culturally still very patriarchal, and I'm a member of Lutheran Church in Finland that seems to be still pretty institutional and still holds, in many cases, explicit glass ceiling. But women of faith with strong call to care have been out there to work anyways. Sometimes I wonder how much they would have achieved if they had got more and needed support. I do have seen that interfaith movement at the grassroots has a progressive and rising role in strengthening women's participation for a sustainable future. Most women work on the field with people, which gives them real face-to-face information, for example, what works and why, and that leads for concrete results. It is the feminine, heart-opening, soft spirituality that brings the change because it asks for equality and justice for all. This creates unity. I have noticed through the women's interfaith activities that dialogue on the grassroots level, where person represents her own personal faith in many cases, has challenged person to see what is relevant in person's religion instead of letting religion or ideology to continue to be clouded by the cultural context or by power game representations. It seems that grassroots encounters and cooperation can lead person to highlight ethics instead of doctrine, and that can guide person to be brave to take real action. Most importantly, participants in women's action-oriented dialogue in some cases energize not only for themselves but also to inspire others because no one is taking too much power and things are being shared. Just a few days ago, during another panel discussion, Lutheran leaders from Africa, Europe, and the US called for women's knowledge and experience to take center stage in all decision making about tackling the climate crisis. Women may be more likely to die in climate-related disasters, but they are also increasingly driving the movement for cleaner energy sources and more sustainable ways of living. Women and young generations support each other. They both from history have experience to be in margin and that have given them competence in the longer run for critical thinking that is needed now. Transformation is called upon Agenda 2030 and especially SDG Target 4.7 in order to change our ways of thinking and of living. This asks cognitive learning but also eco-social and emotional learning that refers to having a sense of belonging to a common humanity with shared values and responsibilities. That, for example, that Global Ethic Declaration points out, and it's also something I see feminine culture promotes: empathy, solidarity, and respect for differences and diversity, and having a sense of responsibility for the future. We must equip learners to move away from past ways of living and thinking and become critically aware of how our predispositions, beliefs, tools, and values have influenced the situation in which we have found ourselves now. UNESCO Future of Education initiative aims to rethink education and shape the future. The initiative is catalyzing a global debate on how knowledge, education, and learning need to be reimagined in a world of increasing complexity, uncertainty, and precarity. I think interfaith education and interworldview education can contribute a lot in this initiative, and women and youth of faith have a huge role in this paradigm change.
Thank you so much, Heidi, for inspiring us with your message and the interfaith work. It's very, very important. And Professor Mary Evelyn, are you still here or you already left us? If I can ask you for just 1 minute to give us like one your final message or takeaways.
Yes,
Before you leave?
thank you so much. I have been listening very carefully, and extraordinary conversation, taking some notes and so on, and trying to drink coffee, so I didn't want to and eat something. But you did a great job. I very much appreciate the work, the dedication, as I say, and also seeing the challenges, the problems and promise, as we like to say. And with your kind of effort, articulation, and work on the ground, I think we can really make some progress. And I thank each one of you from the bottom of my heart. I thank Kaisid and Nana, you did a wonderful job moderating. So I learned a lot and had my coffee and biscotti as well. But thank you. And I look forward to keeping in touch. If you want any of your projects on the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology, please be in touch. All right. Sorry, I have this other call. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. And before and we are coming to the end of our session. And before we leave, I would like to ask each of our speakers to take just another minute to share your final message or your main takeaways from this conversation. So I will give the floor first to Elder Justina.
Thank you very much. I would like to conclude by going this way. Brothers and sisters, friends and colleagues, to achieve a sustainable future, a gender-equal world, a world free from bias, a world free from stereotype and discrimination, a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive, a world where differences are valued and celebrated. We need a gender-balanced boardroom, a gender-balanced government, a gender-balanced leadership, a gender-balanced wealth creation, a gender-balanced media coverage and reportage, a gender-balanced employment opportunities for everyone, a gender-balanced sporting activities, a gender-balanced political appointees and elective positions, just like what we had from Mozambique today, and all-round gender-balanced opportunities for all creation, for all humanity. Together, we can forge women's equality. And collectively, ladies and gentlemen, we can break the bias. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Vani?
Thank you. I hope I've been able to convey the Baha'i international community's perspective that the equality of women and men will increasingly be realized as fundamental attitudes towards women are transformed, particularly during the time of youth, that the oneness of humanity must be a cardinal principle informing both the means and the goals of sustainable development, that the material development of communities will not be accomplished or sustained without their simultaneous spiritual development, and that establishing new patterns of community life based on the principle of universal participation and gender equality will each be integral components in the creation of a flourishing world civilization. Thank you.
Tess, can you give your final remark?
Sure. There are only 3 sentences that I want to share. The first thing is interdependence and social inclusion is really, really important to create a more sustainable future. Second is there are system and cultural issues that prevent women to be treated equally as men. So we need to keep advocating and educating. And last but not least, is that let's be more intentional in creating a more inclusive, harmonious, gender balanced, and sustainable society. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone.
Well, thank you so much for all our speakers. This is such a great note to all your words are such a great note to close this webinar, and such a pleasure to share this moment with all of you. And if you miss the conversation or part of the conversation, please check KaiStit YouTube channel. And I would like to share in closing that in many parts of the world, women act collectively as an institution and the guiding force for social change in directing family values, lifestyles, or consumption habits. So, therefore, involving women in protecting the environment and reducing the climate impacts would be invaluable to maintaining a healthy balance between humanity and our planet resources. Because when women rise up, as we heard from our speakers today, there are greater benefits to the global society at large. So finally, I would like to thank our keynote speakers and our amazing panelists today, and especially our audience for participating and being part of this event. And we hope to see you at the next one, and keep an eye on our social media for new announcements. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day.